Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
He said he gon' huff and puff and blow my mind up. You meet the island girl, she might dirty wind up.
Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show. I'd like to thank J23 for the intro music. You can find a link to her music in the show description. My guest today is Darla LeDoux. Darla is a transformational coach and retreat leader, best-selling author of 2 books on the business of transformation, Shift the Field, and Retreat and Grow Rich. And I just recently finished this book, Shift the Field. So we'll talk about that later. She guides professional service providers, coaches, consultants, and healers to offer and deliver deep transformational work with their magical gifts, especially through groups and retreats. With a background as a chemical engineer, Darla combines practical expertise with deep intuitive insight to help clients harness their sourced magic. And we'll talk about what sourced magic is during the interview as well. Darla, welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you here. I've also been on your podcast. I don't know if that'll come out before or after this one does or not, but awesome to get to know you over the last like 6 months or so. So that is awesome. So I always like to start off with, what got you to doing what you're doing now. So feel free to go far back, go back to your chemical engineering days, to present, like whatever direction you want to go on that.
Thank you. So I started out as a chemical engineer. In high school, my guidance counselor said, well, you're good at math and science. If you can, you should be an engineer. And so I did. And I didn't have a lot of thought process about who I was or what my gifts were or, what I loved. It was really, okay, they said to do this, I'm going to do that. And I know, as an accountant, maybe you had a similar experience of like, oh, this is a good, stable career.
Actually, I was going to bring it up later, but since you kind of teed me up for that, like, I'll just say this. So physics 20 or like grade 11 physics, like basically weeded me out. I'm like, I'm not going to be an engineer. Like that just says that. And it's funny, I'm not really even like that great at math. Like I was okay. But accounting, we just use calculators if we need to and programs and stuff like that. So anyway, I digress, but continue on, please.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I was the person who did what I was supposed to do, and I got the good grades and the gold star and all of that. And I really didn't know how to trust myself. And I now know I'm quite intuitive, but I didn't know that then. I was pretty shut off from that. And then in my corporate job, I was selected to take this training to be a coach within the company. And we were coaching people, basically like a diversity coach, helping people identify if they had biases against someone that they were working with and like identify that up front before it became a problem. So it was pretty cutting edge work for the time. And I loved it. We learned our skills on retreat. So this will be a theme throughout my life. We had 14 days residential training.
Oh, that's a long training.
Yeah, it was broken into 2, but it was like,
gotcha,
it was very intense. And there was this exercise where everybody had to take turns going in the center of the circle and telling their story about their judgments about race or gender or age, sexual orientation. And we had to get a thumbs up or a thumbs down if we were telling the truth. So I'm a good student, I want the gold star. So I'm like, okay, I got to tell the truth, but I don't even know what the truth is. Like, what is the truth about my judgment? I had never even thought about it. And before I had to talk about my judgment about gender, I literally got physically sick. Like my body was revolting. I was so terrified to start to explore that I had biases, based on my parents and the things I experienced when I was young. At the same time, I felt this sense of aliveness in the conversation of why doesn't everybody know this, that the things that have happened in our life are biasing us and affecting everything about how we show up. And we're not taught this, at least I wasn't. And so it was this moment of knowing that if I could do anything for the rest of my life, I would help people know this. And
Amazing.
So that was like where the seed of my desire to become a coach was born. But I also had a lot of, who are you to do that kind of thoughts. It took me almost 10 years. I call them my 10 years in the self-help aisle. before my stepdad died, right when I was getting divorced. And it was like everything in my life was falling apart. And, I know you have your clear moment when you knew I need to do something different. And that was for me, my moment. It was like a 3-month period where everything ended. And I thought, well, I failed at my marriage and our health is not guaranteed, right? Like tomorrow is not guaranteed. Watching my stepdad pass away from cancer. And so why not? Why not try this? Because I kind of thought I had it figured out and I was doing life the right way.
Right.
And it made me realize, like, I don't even know what the right way is. So I might as well do what I love. And that's what brought me into the world of coaching. A couple things I'll say just about my path in case anyone listening, is in this world. I got into coaching and I kind of did the same thing. So even though I had learned, oh, wait, I have a truth, a personal truth that can guide me. When I got into a new environment of running a business, I started looking for someone to tell me what to do.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you ever went through that stage, but it
Oh,
was
all the
like,
time, maybe still going through it. Yeah.
yeah, it's like someone must know better than me what I should do. And I really didn't know anything about running a business. So I'm glad I was learning all of these things. But then I got to this point. I was hosting an event. I'd been in business for a while and I'd hosted different retreats for a long time. Like that was what was in my heart. But I was hosting this big event and I lost a bunch of money. And when things don't go well, it's always a good chance to reflect. And so I started to reflect on, well, what happened? And two things happened. One was I had this intuitive hit about like this professional fancy speaker that I wanted to come speak. Like I was drawn to this person. And so I hired her and paid her to come speak at my event. I thought it'd be easier. And I thought it was my intuition. But what I realized is I didn't really know how to hear my intuition. And I didn't stop to check in. Why am I being drawn to this person? Maybe I'm just supposed to read her blog. Maybe, right? But I went right to, oh, I'm going to hire her and she's going to come to my event and it must be fate and meant to be. And anyway, it didn't go very well. And I learned that I wanted to know how to hear my inner knowing. That's what I learned. It was like, okay, I missed something here. I'm really committed to learning this. And the second thing was I had a mentor that said, if you're not doing big events in this industry, you're nobody. Those were her words. And I never wanted to be nobody, obviously. And so the event itself was coming from this place of someone told me I should do this. So
Right.
those things combined really set me on a personal mission to understand how to hear my guidance, how to trust what I know, how to say what I believe is true, even in the face of someone telling me, that I should do it a different way. How to get guidance and coaching. We met at an event. Like I love getting guidance and coaching, how to get that, but still stay sovereign in what I know rather than defer to some outside expert.
Yeah, I love that. So many good nuggets there. So I just want to backtrack a little bit here. So just, kind of you said at the beginning about like, that training that you were doing in your corporate world about biases and that sort of thing. I felt like, well, obviously we don't learn these things in school or anything,
Yeah,
maybe
right.
some graduate program and if you're in the right department or something like that, but I certainly didn't. And it was all after, learning from people's books, et cetera, et cetera. But I look at my own family. Actually, this was like 3 years ago or something. Like we did a little exercise in our family, trying to like really open the dialogue of like real conversation, not just like how's the weather, how's the kids, blah blah blah, type of thing. And I asked the question about like what's one of your biggest biases that you have, and like literally the room was like, I don't have any biases. I don't have any biases. I'm like, oh come on, like don't BS us here. Like there's fundamental, simple biases that every single person has. So, and it's not that they wouldn't even recognize it in themselves if you actually explained to them these biases. It's just like the notion that people are like, oh, I don't have a bias, and whatever
Yeah.
that judgment or label or meaning they're putting behind bias, and maybe someone's bias, they might go to racism as an example or something like, well, there's lots of biases. There's hundreds of different biases, right? So I love that you brought that up because like people
I'm biased toward nice hotels, for example.
Exactly. There's lots of things. And just one that, just a simple one, just for the audience sake is, like recency bias. Things that have happened to you more recently have more weighting in your mind. That's just human nature. So, that's a simple one for people. They don't even think about that. So I love that. Second of all, to your point of just that intuition and listening to others and maybe putting overweight in other people's views or opinions versus our own. And I think that also goes to, like you said, like learning how to tap into our intuition. I think about earlier this year, a former business coach, still friend, suggested, like I was, really strong in some skill set and like you should pursue something. So I was like, yeah, you're right. So I went down that path and then like I quickly realized I'm like, the audience wasn't the wrong audience, but like the path, like trying to emulate what they had suggested as opposed to like listening to myself. So that it only took me a short little time and 3 months and maybe a little bit of wasted money to figure out, no, I'm actually going down the wrong path. And like I pivoted. So I love that you're sharing that. Can you talk maybe a little bit more? I know we're both, really into health and trying to, improve our health all the time. But can you talk about maybe how like, trusting yourself and how that's actually good for your health?
Yes, I would love to. I want to say something. You said that you were having this family gathering of, talking about things you don't normally talk about. And like literally, I love that so much because, I didn't tell this part of the story, but when my stepdad was sick, he was diagnosed with cancer. And, we're going to talk about health, and I didn't know you, and he was pretty far along when he was diagnosed. But there was a point where it was like, okay, he's not likely going to live. He had liver cancer and they gave him 3 months, and he literally, I think this could have been mindset, but he died in like 3 months to the day from his diagnosis. And during that time, I kept thinking, there's so much I want to ask him. Time is limited. Everybody's trying to act like, okay, we're going to fight this thing. So I didn't want to bring the things up. I did not have any of the capacity I had now to have those conversations. And I started searching online, this was quite a while ago, for places to go where they'll make you talk about things. That was literally my thought. Where can you go where someone will get you to talk about things without having to be the one to bring it up? And I started thinking there's got to be a retreat for this, like a family retreat. And that's where the seed was planted for me around gathering people to tell the truth. It's like I was looking for that in a way. Now, I don't know how it would have gone trying to enroll my family into such a thing.
No,
but it was
that would be challenging for my family for sure. Yeah.
That was what I really, really wanted. So I love that you do that.
Yeah. Well, I just want to preface, like, we've done that a few times. It doesn't always go over very well, and we haven't done it in a while. So I think it's a worthwhile exercise, but again, you have to enroll the entire group. I just want to mention though, I have not used them myself, but there's a couple services now where essentially you kind of outsource it, if you will, to someone like grandpa or mom and dad who's maybe getting older, and you want to collect that wisdom while they still have their faculties, etc. And they get interviewed by a third party about all these various areas of their life. So it's and then they write it up or they do a recording. I think there's different options. And then you have a nice chronicle of that person's life that you can then pass on to like the next generation, grandkids, etc. So
smart.
Yeah, that sounds something really, really awesome.
Well, so you're asking about how trusting ourselves affects our health. And I was leading a class earlier today with a group of clients, and one of the clients was dealing with kind of prioritizing. And she said, I just have so many opportunities everywhere. And we kind of broke down for her to tune in to what was really right to be on her plate. And this is someone who's had health issues and continually says, I know I need to prioritize my self-care. right? And it was like we could suddenly see why it was so hard because she had like a dozen priorities. And then she's very like known in her community. And so people are always coming to her with opportunities. I think you'd be great at this, or there's this,
Right.
business you could get involved in, or we could partner on, and like abundant opportunities. And she needs to know that she can trust herself and know how to discern that. And so, we went through a process for her to be able to hear the way her magic speaks to her. And I call it magic. I call our inner knowing our sourced magic or our divine guidance. And there's 6 different ways that your magic can speak to you. And it's not like necessarily all inclusive. And some people have more than one. But with these 6 different ways, it helps someone to know if all these opportunities are coming at me, maybe I need to feel my body's physical response to each
Right.
one to know if it's a yes or no. Maybe my heart is my guide. Maybe I actually just instinctively sense the vibration of it. Maybe I recognize it as for me. Like I think you mentioned earlier, things coming in threes.
Right. Right. Yeah, that was before we hit the record button. Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe it's like, oh, this is the 3rd time that someone has brought something like this to me, and I recognize that that's for me. So there's different ways that our guidance helps us to know what's ours. But if we're so out there with everybody else, being concerned about what they want and entertaining everything equally, we can't hear it. And that takes a toll on our health.
Absolutely. A couple of things that come to mind there. Just that last point. I just recently heard this. I was at a 3-day in-person event 3-4 weeks ago, and the speaker, this notion of the universe, if you will, or source, whatever resonates with you, gives us this clues, and the term he uses like to drop feathers on us. And if we don't listen to those feathers, then they start to drop a brick. And then if we don't listen to the bricks, then it drops a refrigerator on us, type of thing, right? And I think back to my own story, which most of the audience probably have heard at least once, is I had to wait till I got the refrigerator dropped on me before it clicked. I'm trying to be more intuitive of like, wait, are these just feathers? And actually, as you were saying that, as I shared earlier, our pre-discussion, what's going in my head is like, oh, maybe these are feathers. I need to listen better before the brick comes, or maybe I haven't listened to the feathers and now I'm getting bricks. Anyway, to the audience, that's private conversation, won't share here, but also to your other point, I think what came to mind, and it's not always health for someone. I personally, I mean, that's kind of my realm. So I think health is always the first decision that affects many other things. But the notion I want to bring forward is that, when we make not the easy decision, because sometimes it's hard, but like the one decision that makes a bunch of other decisions easier. So maybe it could be like, hey, I'm going to prioritize my health and I'm going to make a routine, et cetera, and that takes X time. Now I can't do everything that somebody asked me to do because I prioritize my health, and that just eliminates other decisions that you have to make. Should I do this? Should I not do that? Should I go this part? Should I, whatever, because you've made one decision, and that's going to be different for everyone, but that's kind of what came to me when you shared that. So I appreciate that. Now you did mention the 6 sourced magics. So, and I know you have a framework around that. So maybe you can talk a little bit more about how one could identify what theirs are, or how would we know what is our maybe our default, maybe that's the wrong term, our default source magic.
Yeah. So when you talked about the feathers and the bricks, the refrigerator, one of the things I'll say is I'll go through the 6 types, and people will probably recognize themselves in that. And then it doesn't necessarily mean that we're excellent at using it all the time, because we have what I call default energy patterns, which are like where we go on autopilot, right? So for this particular person, it's like people pleasing, right? And like wanting to stay connected to people by doing things for them. And as long as that's running the show, she's never going to prioritize hearing her magic. right? Well, she did today, but like in general, she wouldn't. And so I just want to say if someone is experiencing a feather or a brick, like the warning sign from the universe coming at them, there are tools to shift that. I know you do a monthly class with that. I teach the anatomy of a transformation, which is like, how do you work with what the universe is bringing you? And the more we clear that, the easier it is to hear our divine guidance. So, and I just say that because if someone's getting a feather or a brick, it's not bad, right? It's like we might think it's like bad, but it's actually information to help us grow. So we don't judge if we have, quote, bad things happening to us.
Right.
It's just information, and there is a way to work with that. And every time we work with it, we open up more connection to source, the universe, the divine, collective, however you like to think about it. I don't think about it in any particular religion. To me, it's just we're all connected to
Right.
this divine energy. So with that, people have a primary, I say they have the magic they honed and they have the magic they hid. And a lot of the people I work with are learning to trust themselves, maybe just for their own, feeling good and maybe to serve clients in their business, but they're learning to trust themselves. And often we have this primary magic that we developed, like it was our way of surviving. And then we have maybe the one that felt a little edgy or weird, like, channeling, for example. Sometimes people just have words come to them and they don't know where they come from. I call this
Right.
expression magic. A lot of times people shut that down, right? Their parents said, "Why are you saying that?" Or "How do you know that?" Or "We don't say stuff like that." And they shut it down. So, the 6 types are expression. And that really is being in the present moment and allowing a message to come through. This is the most woo, I would say, of all of them. It's channeling through, it could be through stories or words or messages for someone. Like, I don't know why, but I feel drawn to ask you about whatever. It could be through music or movement, art, right? Like some artwork, you can almost feel the magic in it, right? Where
Right.
someone is really connected in and embedding energy into the work, for example. So that's expression. The one that I feel like, when people take my assessment, the more prevalent one is recognition magic. And that is really seeing the patterns and making connections. You might see signs from the universe. You might recognize that, the universe is speaking to you through a spirit animal that crosses your path, or scrolling social media and happening to see 3 posts on the same topic and thinking, oh, there's a message for me in that. Finding yourself feeling similarly in different situations and recognizing the pattern of like, oh, I feel really like boxed in again. There's something in that for me.
I think
Or
that
for your
this one is
client.
mine. I think so.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so you see the patterns when your clients are giving you their blood work or telling you about what's going on in their life. How does that show
Yeah,
up?
absolutely there, but also just in like things I put together. Sometimes it takes me a
Mm.
while. It's like, oh wait, this is like you said, this is the 3rd or 4th time I'm same message, and now it's finally cluing in. But I've heard it from 4 different
Yeah,
sources, essentially telling me the same thing. I was like, okay, now I need to listen here.
yeah. And being an engineer by training is like that's written off as you know statistically possible or
Right,
like a,
right,
a coincidence. And so for me, it really took a lot to start to trust, no, that's actually guidance. That's actually real. There is vibration magic. That's really seeing the world through energy. So you may, some people see literal like colors and auras or literally see the vibration. I've not experienced that personally. but it might be like your first language is energy. You meet someone and you immediately have a sense about them based on their vibration without them even needing to say anything. Or maybe you're picking up the vibration of someone's tone of voice, right? They might be saying all the right things, but you're feeling like, oh, that person is sad or disconnected, or it doesn't match what they're
Right.
saying. Vibration, often, like I think in our world, I've seen people experience feeling like everybody is taking this program or, going to this event or doing this thing, but it just doesn't feel like a vibrational match for someone. And they're like, why is it not for me? But really learning to trust that. There is expansion magic. So, expansion magicians have a deep faith in the abundance of the universe and they believe in possibility. So, obviously, in our coaching world, there's a lot of expansion magic of like, when I hear you talk about your vision, I can immediately see a bigger version of it. This is not my primary personally, but like the people who are expansion magicians and they help people with their money and expanding their business, it's such a great fit because the immediate go-to is to see if there were no barriers in the way and we
Mm-hmm.
totally trust the universe, this is how it's going to go.
Yeah, I won't mention anyone's name, but I think we both know some people like that who are that's their magic, so to speak. Is right.
Yes. Yeah. There's sensation, and that is feeling the energy in your body. And so this is interesting because one, your body can give you yes or no. It's wonderful to have like that instant knowing through your body. Um, Sensation magicians are the people, the empaths that literally feel other people's energy in their body. So a sensation magician needs a lot, like for you in the health world, like they can pick up a lot of energy that's not theirs. They have to really be diligent about energetic hygiene, right? Like doing qigong or yoga or different energy practices to like if you're going into a crowded space, put yourself in, Donna Eden calls it, put yourself in your coconut.
I've certainly
To
known a lot of energy healers, just to use a blanket term,
Mhm.
who get burnt out because they don't do that for themselves. They take on a lot
Right.
of the emotions from their clients.
Yeah.
If I could just share one, this happened just 2 weeks ago, working with using timeline therapy with a very with a client who had a very long-rooted issue going back generations, actually, and working through those emotions. And for the first time ever, I just started like burning up, and I couldn't explain what was going on. I had to like take my sweater off, and all that came to mind is like I was absorbing that, and like I needed to take a break. So, which was very
Yes.
unique for me. Like that's never experienced, but yeah, certainly there are people like that. So yeah, awesome. Please continue.
Yeah, and I would say like that can be a great tool. And I've taken a bunch of training on how to not let that get stuck in my body, right? Because we don't want other people's stuff hanging out with us. But for me, I can know, oh, this is where, this is the organ it's in or whatever. I'm not a health, I'm not trained in any health modality, but I can know, okay, this is what that organ is about. And it's like so clear. So,
Right.
um, and I had to learn this. I was hosting a retreat one time and I came back from lunch and I was feeling great. And I don't know, I had a salad or something and I'm feeling good. And I came back in the room and I immediately had like an intense stomach ache. And it occurred to me, for whatever reason, source, to ask if someone had a stomach ache. And this woman raised her hand and she was like, "Oh my God, it's me." She's like, "I've been dying because I know I need to ask you something." And I'm like terrified. And anyway, so we worked on that. And then my stomach ache resolved. And that was my first experience of feeling like, oh, I can feel actually physically the energy in this room.
Right.
The final is compassion. And this is heart energy. It is non-judgment. So like if expansion is abundance, Like I totally trust the abundance of the universe. Compassion is non-judgment. It's like, it doesn't matter. I will hold a loving space for you. Whatever you say, whatever you do, whatever, like I can hold love. That's expand or compassion magic. So in decision making, the heart is the guide for compassion magic.
Right.
And then the other thing, if we think about being complete non-judgment in this world, it can feel like, oh, I'm just going to love everybody, right? Like I'm just going to welcome everything and have no boundaries. But boundaries are actually really, really important if we have a lot of compassion magic. It's like the strongest tool. Working in this space, helping a lot of magical people to create their services, a lot of times compassion, under the guise of compassion, someone's going to overgive, overserve,
Right.
like, go over time on sessions. They're going to wake up thinking about someone. They're going to try, like this was me, they're going to try to get their family to go on retreat, even though their family doesn't want to, right? It's like trying to help everybody. And really, often the most compassionate thing that we can do is allow someone to experience the consequence of whatever they've got going on. And that can be a challenge to learn.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing those. And I think that's a nice segue because they are talked about in the book, which I read here and I loved, and I got my flags as I mentioned. And I'll just point out now. So link to the book, everything, to connect with Darla and her website and all that stuff. Everything will be in the show notes there. But I did want to say the things I got flagged, or I picked up so many things for myself from the book, and even some like legit like business tools. I'm like, oh, that's a good concept, or that's a good idea, or I never thought of it that way, and it was a bit of a reframe for me. So yeah, I highly recommend the book. Really for anyone, because Darla also shares her story, amazing story in there as well. But if you are someone who's in that realm, again, maybe a coach or healer or something like that, who is helping others, I think this book is a valuable resource for you as well. So Darla, as we kind of come to sort of a close here, last couple of questions. Yeah, this is not a health specific podcast, but I do like to ask my guests, like, what is your morning routine look like, or what's a non-negotiable for your health?
Well, this is a good day to ask about that because I did my full meditation practice today. I call it sitting practice or soul time. So it looks different each day depending on kind of what I feel, but I'll set a timer and I set it, y'all, for 11 minutes. So it's super non-intimidating. Like anybody can do 11 minutes. I always end up staying longer, but like the 11 minutes makes it feel like, oh, I totally have time for this. And for me, I tune into my magic. So it kind of depends on what magic I'm working with. Often I'll use sensation magic. So I'll scan my chakras and just see, where is it tight? Where is it expansive? Am I feeling like, oh, my third is like feeling really expansive, like today is a day of action? Or am I feeling tight or contracted in my second, which is creativity? Like, am I feeling deprived of creativity? Am I pushing myself too much to, am I overriding what my body needs? So I'll often do that. I also have spirit animal guides. So sometimes I'll check in with them and just see if there's anything they have. I know that's super woo. And then lately, I've been working with expression magic. Like I've felt really called to develop that more. So I will do a lot of journaling, like asking source for the question and then just letting my hand move. So I'm
Awesome.
newer at that. But often it will give me guidance on what to prioritize for the day, help me feel present and in my body for the day. And, I don't want to say it's non-negotiable daily because I'm like super love to flow and have flexibility, but it's non-negotiable, like, during the week, 4
Right.
to 5 sessions during the week. Um, Other than that, I go to Pilates, I take my supplements, and I'm in flux on like, are these the right supplements? Do I need to evolve my supplements? So,
Amazing. You're on your journey. I love the journaling, love the meditation, and whatever form it looks like, and however long it is too. So I think that's key takeaway for the audience. Like, just do something. Do whatever it is for
yes.
however long to start to build the habit there.
It's
Curious.
like source shows up when we show up, right? We
Yeah.
think like, well, where are you? Like, why am I not getting, why is my intuition not there? But we don't make space for it. Like the client I was talking about, who's too busy to decide if what her priorities are. It's like, we got to start there. We have to make space for no matter what your magic is, you have to make space for it.
Yeah. I think that might be the title of this podcast. Whatever your magic is, you have to make space for it. I like that. I want to ask you really quickly, what are your spirit animals? What are they?
Oh, wow. I have a snake.
Is that a cobra?
Um, this is a cobra. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much detail you want. That's at my throat chakra. It's like I don't say a lot, but it's like very discerning of like when I am going to say the thing. I have a horse, a seal, a moose, a dog.
You would love living there at my house because we got moose all the time.
So I'm here in Colorado and we have moose, and I have
Oh
yet
yeah,
to
of
see
course. Yeah.
one.
Oh
I haven't
really?
seen one. No, it's interesting. I held a
I
retreat
saw
up on
3
the,
this week.
oh my gosh. I held a retreat up on the mountain and my clients saw the moose, but I happened to not be there when the moose was there. So I missed it.
Yeah,
But
you'll
I
have to
don't
come
know.
visit. You'll have to come visit me in the summertime, or sorry, in the wintertime. We see them more in the winter than in the summer. But
It is kind of like a bummer because I would think I'd, just draw it in, but who knows? Maybe they don't like to cluster.
yeah, they're
I've
solitary
got all
animals
the moose
actually.
energy.
Yeah, for sure. I'll just really quick. I think I have two, sort of a land and a sea or water.
Hmm.
Tiger and sea turtle, or turtles in general is
Ooh,
kind of what I
ooh,
believe are my spirit animals.
I
Um,
love them.
Now, Darla, you do have a gift for the listeners, a free gift, I believe. So, could briefly describe what that is? And again, everyone,
Mhm,
the link will be in the show notes. You don't have to worry about, like, everything will be there to contact Darla and get this
mhm.
gift as well.
Yeah, it's called Celebrate Your Magic. So it's a four-part little mini course. You will get to take the magic quiz and see what your primary magic is. And then we look at what's in your intuition blind spot. And that's kind of like the reason that you might be hiding your magic. Because when someone comes in and they're a bright light, and depending on your family of origin, my family of origin was not super high vibration, we'll say, right? They were a good learning ground for me and love them. Um, People will often shut down your knowing, right? Like you can't say that, or, tone it down, or you're too much, or whatever it may be. And so we dive into what keeps you from actually trusting your guidance.
That's awesome. I think I need to do that myself. So, yeah, I would definitely recommend everyone. Again, the link will be in the show notes. Check that out. Run it for yourself, whether you're a coach or a consultant or a healer or whatever. I think that's just a good thing to test out, because how many people are not fully speaking their voice, like almost everybody, to some degree. So I love
And I
that.
think it's where we're going. I live in the US. Like we need people to know what they know and be sovereign, because I don't think we can rely on our structures in the same way that we did in the past. So
Good
we
point.
need
Very
to
good
be
point.
leaders.
Absolutely. Um, what's last question? What's last word of wisdom or golden nugget, if you will, that you'd like to leave the audience with?
Hmm. I feel like, given I'm talking to you, you took your health into your own hands. You decided to trust yourself over like the external systems and find your path. And I think that applies to all areas of life, to our health, to our work, relationships. If you really feel and that like something's not right, to trust it.
Love that. That's a great way to end the show. So, Darla, I appreciate you and thank you again for being on the Deepak Saini Show.
Thank you.
So I'm going to throw it to J23, who's going to play us out with some music. Also, don't forget to check out today's show sponsor. And as well, there's some, besides Darla's resources, again, we'll have all her links there. I have a few new resources as well in the show notes. So don't forget to check those out if you haven't checked them out before. So again, thank you everyone for listening to the Deepak Saini Show. Remember, exceptional results for the exceptional you. Till next time. This episode is brought to you by Optimizer's Mass Zymes. This is digestive enzymes that helps you break down your protein, fats, starches, and sugars. I've been using this product for, over a year now, specifically in a protein-heavy meal, because I really want to break down my protein to make sure I get the amino acids that I need for maintaining muscle growth, maintaining lean muscle mass. Super important as we age and all stages of life, really. So again, huge proponent of Mass Zymes. Check out the link below to see how you can get at least 10% off, if not more. Cheers.
Podcast produced by the Minted Green Company